Welcome, everyone, to this visual explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating piece of classical literature from a text known as the Eighth Word, or Sekizenji Soz. We're going to break down a really profound allegory that, honestly, might completely change how you view life's deepest struggles. So, if you're ready to look at reality through a brand new lens, you are absolutely in the right place.
But before we get into the text itself, let's just be honest for a second. Do you ever feel like life is just kind of closing in on you? Almost like you're trapped in a dark, narrow well? Look, we all experience that crushing dread about the future, right? That terrifying realization of how ridiculously fast time is slipping through our fingers, and just the heavy weight of unexpected problems that seem to pile up out of nowhere. It's a deeply universal human anxiety, so you're definitely not alone in feeling that way. Section 1. When life narrows. Okay, let's dive right into this and explore exactly how our source text tackles these crushing existential weights head-on.
Section 2. A terrifying desert tale. We're going to start by looking at an incredibly intense, highly symbolic allegory from the text about a traveler who decides to take the left path in a vast desert. So picture this. Out of nowhere, a ferocious lion appears, roaring and charging right at this traveler. In sheer panic, he sprints away, absolutely desperate to survive. Blind with fear, he suddenly tumbles into a dark, gaping well. As he's plummeting into this abyss, he frantically reaches out and manages to grab onto a tree growing right out of the side of the well. He pauses, gasping for air, thinking he's finally safe. But then, he looks down. Waiting for him at the absolute bottom of this well is a massive, terrifying dragon with its mouth wide open. And, if that wasn't enough, he realizes the walls of the well around him are literally crawling with venomous, stinging insects.
And man, just when you think this traveler's situation couldn't possibly get any worse, he looks at the trunk of the tree he's clinging to. There are two animals, one completely black and one pure white, right at the base of the tree, relentlessly gnawing away at its roots. His literal only lifeline, the one thing keeping him out of that dragon's jaws, is slowly but inevitably being destroyed right in front of his eyes. Section 3. Decoding the symbols. Now, what's really fascinating here is how we can methodically decode the terrifying elements of this story into some really profound truths about our reality.
Because the eighth word isn't just trying to scare us for no reason, right? It's presenting a brilliant, structured map of the human condition. Let's break this code together. The dark well, that actually represents the human body and the confined time of our life on Earth. The roaring lion stands for death, constantly chasing us down. That horrifying dragon waiting at the bottom, that represents the grave, the threshold to the afterlife, or barzakh. And those two animals gnawing at the tree, the black and white ones, they brilliantly symbolize day and night. It's the continuous cycle of time that's just constantly eating away at the tree of our lifespan.
The text even gives us this very specific measurement to anchor the whole metaphor into reality. It states that the well the traveler falls into is exactly 60 yards deep. Now, why 60? Well, because it elegantly represents the average human lifespan. Basically, 60 years of distance between the moment we fall into the well of existence and the bottom where the dragon waits. It takes this abstract concept of time passing and makes it incredibly tangible and honestly quite urgent. And we definitely can't forget about those stinging insects crawling all over the walls. In the original text, they're referred to as hashereler. These symbolize all those worldly misfortunes, the unexpected calamities, sicknesses, financial troubles, and just the daily annoyances that constantly surround us in life. They're basically the unavoidable troubles that sting us and disrupt our peace while we're just trying to hang on to the tree of life. Section 4. The paradigm shift. So the absolute crucial point here is how looking at this exact same terrifying picture changes completely when we introduce the lens of faith. If reality is just what we've described so far, it sounds incredibly bleak. Without faith, the traveler looks around and, well, he sees only terror. Time is just a depleting rope. Death is an attacking beast, and the grave is an absolute monster. It's a life lived in constant, inescapable anxiety. But with the perspective of faith, the entire narrative shifts. The believer doesn't deny the existence of the lion or the well or the dragon, but they start to see the profound meaning, the deep mercy, and the hidden wisdom that's actually operating quietly behind these frightening symbols. And this brilliantly illustrates that stark shift. To the faithless eye, the grave is just that horrifying dragon's mouth, a dark void of nothingness and destruction. But through the lens of faith, the dragon is totally transformed. It ceases to be a monster and actually becomes a doorway.
It becomes a transition point, opening out from the cramped, narrow dungeon of this worldly life, leading directly into a beautiful, eternal garden. The physical reality hasn't changed at all, but the meaning behind it has been completely rewritten.
This incredible shift applies to our daily struggles too. Remember those stinging insects? The daily troubles and calamities? Well, with faith, these are no longer seen as just random, cruel torments. Instead, the Source reframes them as compassionate wake-up calls. They become merciful warnings, purposely designed to shake us out of our spiritual numbness, wake us up from the sleep of heedlessness, and just remind us of our true purpose before our time on the tree runs out.
Section 5. Practical Life Application. Let's move to our final section here and see how all of this builds into an empowering daily practice for you. Because it's one thing to understand a cool metaphor, but the eighth word is meant to be a highly practical tool. So here's a quick psychological exercise derived straight from this text. Today, I want you to take just a moment and write down a fear that's currently stinging you like one of those insects. Maybe it's the fear of time running out, an illness, a financial loss, whatever it is. Write it down. Then step back and ask yourself, what meaning does faith add to this fear? Look past that terrifying surface. Really challenge yourself to discover the hidden mercy or the lesson of growth that might be waiting right behind that specific hardship. Fear magnifies symbols. Faith teaches us to see the mercy and wisdom behind them. When you feel like you're falling down that dark well, just remember that your fears will always try to make the dragon look bigger and the lion look faster, but you actually have the power to change the lens. So what beautiful, profound truths might be hiding right now behind your biggest, darkest fears? Thank you so much for joining me in this visual explainer, and I truly hope this perspective brings a profound sense of peace to your day.